All right, everybody. Um, just wanted to go over a couple things. Sitting here in my garage, there's a little e-bike back there. I'm getting stopped by a lot of people, and I get a lot of questions about my e-bike. And I just wanted to go over a couple things that I've come across and some of my thoughts on this. There's a lot of people that ask me if I get any exercise riding this, because I guess they assume that because it has a motor on it, that now it's a motorcycle. That's not the case at all. His top speed is somewhere on the flat, somewhere between 25 and 28 miles an hour, depending on how flat it is, depending on wind, and all kinds of other variables. But you can definitely get exercise on one of these, without a doubt. It's actually very easy too. I would compare it to riding an exercise bike, because you can change your resistance by adding motor assistance to it. I like to try to cruise somewhere between 19, 20 miles an hour, and any time that I can do that without the motor, I turn it off. I just let go of the throttle and pedal. It's that easy. When you start going up a hill, or you got a strong headwind coming towards you, put a little bit of throttle to it. I ride about 20 miles about 6 days a week. And I'm able to do that because of having the motor on there. In years past, I've ridden bikes for several years, and it's just gotten harder as I get older to be able to keep my knees from hurting as bad. And with this, I'm able to actually ride every single day instead of 2 or 3 times a week. I'm able to ride every single day for about 20 miles, and I got one of these little Fitbit devices, and according to that, my calorie burn is somewhere between 600 and 700 calories. So I'm still getting a workout. It's not just riding a motorcycle, people. You still get a very good workout. I've had a lot of people ask me why I did that instead of just going and riding a bike. My main reason for that is where I live. Where I would like to ride is a greenway, but the greenway is about 3 miles from my house. So I'd have to load my bike into my car, drive to the greenway, unload it, take it, and ride 10 miles, get back in, load everything back in the car, and then drive back to the house. It'd take me, I don't know, 2.5 hours, something like that. Now I can hop on my bike, I can stay up with traffic. If I really, really need to get into it because I get into heavy traffic, I can go 28 miles an hour. I can go 26 and still pedal with it. Yeah, it's a little bit heavier bike than what I'm used to, but I don't notice it at all. You get a lot of strange looks, I'll just be honest. I get a lot of strange looks when you go by. The other thing I want to talk about is how this kit actually works. It is probably the cheapest kind of kit you can get on the market. I paid about $103 for mine. I have upgraded it, but it's what I would call an old school. You got a sprocket that goes on the left-hand side of the back wheel, and then you got a motor with a chain that goes around it. A lot of people knock those, but a lot of people that have a lot more expensive bikes can't do what I can do with mine. I can go faster than they can, and I can go further than they can. Most of your baseline e-bikes that I've seen out there have somewhere around an 8 amp hour battery, and the way that I would say that is that means that you could probably go full throttle for about an hour. I mean, if you calculate your wattage and everything, you're going to get about an hour's run out of a battery like that. I have a 14 amp hour battery that I kind of put together myself, and I can get 20 to 30 miles out of it. Depends. I ride 20 miles every day and I don't get anywhere near draining the battery. I go from somewhere like, I start out at about 41.5 volts, and at the end of my ride I'll be down to 35, something like that. Not bad. It just depends on how strong the wind is. The other thing I want to talk about is you got to kind of be careful with what's legal and what's not where you live. Where I live in Alabama, technically, and this is just general rule for anybody, in my state, Alabama, a bicycle is not allowed on the sidewalk. Driver's handbook says that any bicycle is classified as a vehicle, and vehicles are not allowed on the sidewalk. So for anybody that's watching that doesn't like to see bicyclists on the road, I'm sorry, they're obeying the laws. And share the road doesn't mean the bicyclist gets the curb and everybody else gets the road. That being said, if you're a bicyclist and you're out on the road, obey the traffic laws. They read your handbook and it'll tell you that you have to obey all the traffic laws. Stop signs, turn, know your hand signals. If you're going to ride on the road, I really suggest putting turn signals on there and a brake light. These e-bikes come with that, not the turn signals, they come with a brake light. It's really easy to attach. I've added my own turn signals, I've added mirrors on the back, and I actually used my cell phone with an old school USB camera. I use my little cell phone right here, and that is my rear view mirror. I have two side mirrors and then I have a rear view mirror. And so I can see traffic coming from up behind me from a long way away, and I probably know they're there before they know I'm there. Just be safe about it. You can have a lot of fun. You get a lot of strange looks. Another thing, don't know when people are watching this video, but right now this is June of 2020, and we're still somewhat on lockdown for COVID-19 here in the United States. Don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but it's hard to find a bicycle. I went to local sporting goods store around here, and the bike racks for adult bikes were completely empty. Completely empty. So this may not be the best time to try to build your own bike like this, because there's delays for shipments from Amazon. Batteries are really scarce too. I bought my batteries from a place called Battery Hookup. They deal in surplus batteries. They're pretty much sold out of just about everything that you would use on an e-bike, and have been for a while. So maybe here in a couple months, when people get tired of their bikes and everybody starts going back to work, maybe you'll be able to pick up a bike pretty cheap, but right now they're pretty expensive. After building this bike that's behind me right here, I sold my old road bike, and I had absolutely no trouble selling it. I sold it in less than 4 hours. I listed it on Craigslist and it was gone. I should have asked for more money for it, but oh well. I just wanted it out of the garage. Any other things I can think of is, when you're riding an e-bike like this, you get a lot more wind across you, so you don't get as hot. Really, really make sure that when you're riding this that you take plenty of water. It's really easy to get dehydrated when you're out like that, because you don't realize how hot you are, and you don't think that, hey, I'm only going 20 miles an hour, I'll know when I'm hot. No, you won't. I promise you won't. When you get out there and that wind's blowing by you, you don't even realize you're sweating. They're really a lot of fun. I don't know that I'll ever go back to riding a regular bike again. The other thing I want to talk about is kind of the idea of these, what I would call an old school e-bike being lesser quality, and I put that in quotes. But they're really not, I wouldn't say they're lesser quality. You just have to put a little bit of work into them. That's it. Not anything that you can't figure out. The biggest problem that anybody's going to run into is a bracket. Do yourself a favor, if you're going to do one of these, buy the kit, then go find the bike that it fits on. That's what I did. I took a piece of cardboard, I traced out the motor bracket, and I went to Walmart. Bought the bike for $93. It was last year's model. It was sitting outside. I had to do a little bit of cleaning on it, but I went out there with my little piece of cardboard, stuck it up there, and there you go. It works. Did have to make some modifications on the mount, but for those that are interested, I'm looking at drawing out my own, because I really think this mount that comes on these kits is not designed for the lower end motor. There's a difference between those two motors. If you buy the higher wattage motor, they usually come in like a 250 watt motor or a 450 watt motor. The 450 watt motor does not have standoffs on it, and the 250 watt motor does. And what that does is when you put the 250 watt motor on there, it actually pushes the motor back so it doesn't line up with the chain. I actually modified this bike to adapt to this lower wattage motor, and then I bought a higher wattage motor, and so I had to adapt it again. Basically, I had to move the motor right back to where it was before. See if I can show you. I got one in the box right here. So if you look, let's see if I can get it in there, right here. See that little standoff? It's about a 1/4 inch. See if I can get that out. Yeah, about a 1/4 inch. So what that does on this bracket, see it's got kind of like a little ledge right there. It'll actually pull the motor back away from the bike. So if you're looking at it like this, it actually pulls it away from the bike, like that. So what I had to do is right in here is cut that and move that back. And if you measure that, it's about a 1/4 inch. Actually, it's about a half, but by the time you cut that out and weld it back together, you've taken it in about a 1/4 inch. So my suggestion would be, in one of these kits, spend the extra $20. Some of them is maybe $40. Spend a little bit extra, get the bigger wattage motor. You can always not twist the throttle as hard, you know. Another thing to think about is if you're really wanting to go for a little bit more speed on these things. Typical battery is about a 36 volt battery. Buy a 24 volt motor. What that does is, because these are geared motors, so they gear that thing to a ratio to where you should be around 15 miles an hour at max RPM. Well, if you change the voltage going to the motor, the gear ratio changes. So it's rated for 24 volts. It can handle a lot more than that, I promise. It'll handle probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 52 volts, maybe more than that. But that rating that's on the motor, it's there because of the gear ratio. So you got to kind of look at that, because and look at how your state classifies e-bikes. Here in Alabama, if you go over 28 miles an hour, it has to be classified as a moped. So I had to do a little tweaking on mine, messing with a little bit of gear ratios and stuff so that I don't go over that limit. And to be on the safe side, that's why I travel at about 20 miles an hour, because 20 miles an hour is what they consider an assisted bike. And or a class 1 e-bike. I do not have pedal assist on this. It's a brush motor, and to me, it's way too much money to spend to have pedal assist when all I can do is let off the throttle a little bit and I can pedal myself. Use your brain and don't have to use a computer for everything. It's really kind of strange coming from me, but that's my thought on it. Let off the throttle. Use your legs. Have fun with it. If you got any questions, comments, just hit me up. I'll be glad to walk you through anything, any of the stuff that I dealt with. Some of the stuff on my bike I kind of went overboard. I built my own turn signals. I used a little Arduino Nano and just a simple blink circuit, and then just some circuitry in there. Use some DC to DC converters to drop the voltage down so I can run the Arduino off the main battery. I built my own brake light by using LEDs in the series, because you got 36 volts coming off there. You can't just put an LED strip on there. So I just figured around 40 volts and took 5-volt LED strips and put them in series with each other. And when you put resistors in series, that's how you're able to get that voltage through there and not burn up the LEDs. Works great. Took me, I don't know, a couple hours to do. Simple soldering, not a big deal at all. Cut some pieces out on my little CNC machine, but I know not everybody has that, but you could do the same thing by just cutting out some little pieces of acrylic or plastic or plywood or whatever. Everything else is held up with zip ties. Just have fun with it. It's actually a lot of fun. I ride mine every day, and it's because I enjoy getting out and riding my exercise bike on the road. Like I said, any questions, glad to answer them for you. Y'all get out there, get into the sunshine, have some fun.